Hey everybody, my name is Micah Poppenhouse and I'm going to be presenting to you my experience with the BSG Strategy Game. I was in Industry 5 and I was Company G. Starting with how I started, I added a few options for corporate citizenship. I started with recycled boxing, I added ethics training for all of my employees, and I went on to the work diversity program. I also spent a lot of money in advertising in the beginning because it wasn't needed towards the end because our customers knew what we had, what our quality was, what our values were, and all that kind of stuff. And I only changed a few numbers throughout the game, and I'm going to dive into that. Starting with the sales forecast, I played with the proposed marketing effort. Then I went on and like I said before, I spent more money in advertising in the beginning than I did towards the end. And I made sure retailer support was always $50 to $200 above the estimate of the industry average. Then moving on to plant capacity and upgrades, I didn't put too high of a number in sales of existing capacity. I had to make sure that there were enough for private labeling. And I only built capacity one decision round in the AP unit because the demand was very high and I needed to. Moving on to branded production, I only changed the TQM number when my SQ rating was below a 5, and I'm pretty sure that was only like 1 or 2 times. I just spiked that TQM number to get my SQ rating back up. I changed best practices training only sometimes because employees really only need that as a refresher. And then I went on to maxed out the numbers for branded pairs produced only for regular time because I didn't want too many pairs to be produced and them not be bought. Going on to branded distribution, I allocated numbers based on where the demand was needed. I think I could have done a little bit better in this section. I was basically guessing the first round, but then I would go back after each round and see where the demand was higher. And typically that was in your NA and EA plants, and the demand was typically lower in your AP and LA plants. All right, going on to internet marketing. I never changed these numbers just because I noticed that the numbers really looked good and that they could have stayed the same throughout the whole game. Moving on to wholesale marketing, I kept the wholesale price the same throughout the game. I just didn't want to higher the number and them think, oh, well, we're not going to buy that anymore because that's too expensive. And I didn't want to lower the number because I didn't want them to think that our quality was going down. I always made sure that our quality was, very high and very known. And I mainly made sure that the sales forecast, branded production, and wholesale marketing numbers really matched up because that was important, because if they didn't match up, it wasn't going to do right, and that was really my key to success here. And for celebrity endorsements, for the celebrities that I wanted, I put more money into their bid. Then I never gave them a priority ranking. I just kind of let the game work that out. Let it decide, who I wanted and who I got, basically. And then for private label operations, I maxed out numbers for regular and overtime, just because there was a high demand for private label, and so the demand was there. And then I allocated proposed shipments according to demand. This was really the same as branded distribution. The NA and the EA plants required more than the AP and the LA plants. Moving on to finance and cash flow, I only took out 1 year and 5-year loans from around $50,000 to $100,000, and this was really only when I needed it. I tried not to take out too much money over too much time or too often. I kept the dividends the same, which was at 10 cents. And I repurchased 150 to 550 shares of stock each round. My ending comments are that my strategic goals were achieved. When I started the game, my credit rating was just an A, and I brought that from an A to an A plus, through taking out the 1 year and 5 year loans. My demand was higher and higher after each round, and that was a really big goal of mine. And so what I would suggest to other firms starting this game is that I would spike numbers like I did in advertising, because I think that really helped get the word out about my company, and show people, what we offered and what our quality was and what our value was. Another thing I would suggest is I would distribute shipments and units a little more evenly than I did. I think this was a weakness of mine. I think I could have done a little bit better. I think I could have done a little bit more research into it. But I still think the NA and the EA plants would require more than the AP and the LA plants. But this is my presentation on the BSG Strategy Game, and thank you for your time.